A UK pension scheme has been described as deeply irresponsible after investing in Bitcoin. It's an unnamed defined benefit scheme. It's become the first in the UK to take the plunge, using 3% of its assets to buy into the cryptocurrency last month. Various people at various wealth advisory firms have said it's a very strange decision. Pension funds should surely be investing for the long term rather than speculating. Danny Wiltshire, an actuary at Wiltshire Wealth, said this is deeply irresponsible. Pension trustees have an obligation to ensure schemes are managed prudently. This precludes taking punts on a basket case asset class like crypto. For the sake of their members, I hope the regulator is paying attention. Are you paying attention to crypto? Should the British government be paying attention to cryptocurrency? We're told the Treasury doesn't invest in Bitcoin, but it has seized Bitcoin from criminals, the value of which could be, according to reporting in The Telegraph, around 6 billion quid. That's a lot of new nurses. 0345 6060 973. What is the future of this stuff? If you're into it, if you're talking about it, if you're invested in it, I say invested in it, if you're trading it, if you're buying it, what is the future here? Do you think the UK government should follow Trump's lead to some extent in going down this path of buying or setting up a strategic Bitcoin reserve? Is it a house built on sand? Who wants to move to El Salvador? 0345 6060 973. Susie Violet Ward is a Bitcoin journalist and co-founder and director of Bitcoin Policy UK. Thank you very much indeed for coming on. What do you make of the politics around cryptocurrencies and the way they are changing?
Well, I would just like to say that there's a big difference between Bitcoin and crypto.
Yes.
Bitcoin is a completely decentralized peer-to-peer cash with no CEO and nobody owns it. Crypto are all centralized companies. There's 29,000 of them, and you couldn't possibly know which ones are good and which ones are bad. Bitcoin has a 56% dominance. The other ones are just gambling.
So when we talk about crypto being viable or not built on sand, the one that you're saying is less likely to be built on sand is Bitcoin. Why might that be?
Because it has the network effect, because it connects money back to energy, because it has a 21 million cap supply. It's the only finite asset on the planet.
Stop there, because I don't understand the word you're using. It converts energy to money. What does that mean?
So if you want to go back in 1971, you could redeem every dollar for gold. So essentially our money was tangibly attached to something in the real world. Mm-hmm. Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, and since then there has been a big disparity between the cost of living and wages. They haven't risen in line with each other. As a result, you can see the kind of debasement of the currency that we see today and the distortion of what that happens with people not being able to buy simple utilities like houses. So when it comes to an asset where you can't print any more of it, it's not within any kind of governmental reach. It can't be seized or taken, and it can be sent to anybody on the planet with a mobile phone in a split second for a fraction of a penny. The value is there.
But what is it linked to? I mean, it might exist on my phone.
You have to secure the network by using energy, and that has often been sold as a downside for Bitcoin, but in actual fact it's its superpower.
I'm really sorry, Susie, I'm so sorry. I don't know what you mean by energy.
So the way that the Bitcoin blockchain works is that it solves lots of computational puzzles, and every 10 minutes a block is mined. But in order to run those computational processes, you have to run a computer essentially, and that requires energy.
Yes.
We are now connecting money back to energy in the same way that we did in 1971 when dollar was backed by gold.
Okay, I'm going to pause on that because frankly, I don't understand it. I'd like to understand it, but I feel like we could be here a long time before I do. When the politics, so this is now a thing, it's making people money. It has gone up in value prodigiously over the course of certainly the last 10 years, but in the last few weeks. When you hear of what Donald Trump is planning to do, is that akin to what has been done in El Salvador, where they've turned Bitcoin into a thing that you can buy actual stuff with and have claimed to try and create a city?
Absolutely. You can buy stuff with Bitcoin now. I mean, I buy things all the time with Bitcoin.
What do you buy?
I buy my eyelashes.
I'm so sorry, Susie Trevor. I didn't realise it was going to... I thought you were going to say your toothbrush or something. I don't know, something really mundane. You bought your eyelashes with Bitcoin. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Great.
I pay my beautician in Bitcoin. She understands its value. She knows that it's a finite asset. She wants to hold it. She wants to keep it. And I've helped to get it into self-custody. I
read that in Detroit, you can now pay your utility bill with Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things. I don't know. I haven't read that particular article,
right.
But yeah, I can imagine there's a lot of things that you can buy with Bitcoin that you'd be surprised about.
So if it can buy real things, it's clearly something that people would want to hold and it rise in order to be able to buy more things.
Yes, exactly. It's something that will hold your purchasing power opposed to the fiat currency that we use, which gets debased constantly. So if I was to choose to hold something that was going to retain my time and energy and my purchasing power, it would be Bitcoin, which is why I think it's actually irresponsible not to have a pension allocation. And the fact that the UK has actually harmed investors and the FCA have harmed them, because just before we went on a massive bull run, they actually made it harder for UK people to buy Bitcoin. We're not even able to access the Bitcoin spot ETFs. And that happened in the same week that the US approved a Bitcoin spot ETF. We've been forced into buying proxies like MicroStrategy, but we're not allowed to we can't easily buy Bitcoin because the on-off ramps have been made harder.
Right. But
not allowed.
When you talk about the kind of policy you want to see towards it, if I'm a manager of a big pension company, why would I invest into an area that is not regulated, that goes up and down based on stuff in the ether that I can't find on a spreadsheet when it releases its company quarterly returns? Why would I take that risk with hardworking people's money?
So the 60-40 current portfolio isn't working. Pensions are not performing for people. Bitcoin is the best performing asset of the decade. There is nothing else that is going to perform like it. It's money that's inherent to the internet, and it's a completely global peer-to-peer cash. It will be the unreserved currency of the world.
So you think the UK better get onto it fast?
I don't know why they're not waking up. And that's why me and my colleague Freddie New at Bitcoin Policy UK are lobbying the government to try and educate them properly on this. Because if you look at all the mainstream media information that is given, it's either negative or at best neutral. But there are so many amazing aspects to Bitcoin, the freedom.
But there are negatives to it. I mean, people have lost loads of money.
Well, that's because they sold it at the wrong time.
Well, yeah.
If you hold on to Bitcoin and you go through a complete cycle, you will never lose. I can't help it if people buy at the top and sell at the bottom. That's on them.
But I guess you could ask this about anything, but how do you know it's the top and the bottom? But at least if I invest in a company, I can know what their quarterly returns are. I can know how well or poorly they're doing in the market. I can see what I'm getting for my money. I can't do that with Bitcoin.
You can. There are lots of things that you can look up with Bitcoin. You can understand the network effect. You can get on board and mine. You can join the network. Everybody can participate. It's an open source ledger that anybody can audit. It's pseudonymous, which means you can see all the transactions. That's why it's so ridiculous that they say that Bitcoin is for criminals. The reason why the UK has seized 61,000 Bitcoin is because it's all auditable and on an open source blockchain.
Glen's in St Albans. Glen.
Hi there. We've spoken before, Tom, because I wrote the best-selling book in the UK about crypto trading.
Oh, my God.
And
you wrote the book, The Crypto Trader.
That's right, yeah.
You're Glen Goodman.
Yeah.
Great man.
Well, anyway, point is, I heard what Susie Ward had to say earlier, and I got to say, I think it's totally irresponsible. You know, she talks as if Bitcoin's definitely going to keep going up and up. And the only mistake you could possibly make and the only way you can lose money is to sell it. I mean, I hope I'm not, slightly misquoting her here, but that was certainly the impression I got from listening.
I mean, I think, Glen, we can put her down as a fan, certainly.
Very much so. Well, I guess Bitcoin policy is a lobby group to lobby the government to make things easier for Bitcoin. But in terms of advising people on individual investment, I've written an entire book about how to invest in Bitcoin and how to trade Bitcoin. And I wouldn't for 1 second tell people, it's a one-way bet.
No, sure.
It's going to the moon. It's never going to, the only mistake you can make is selling it. It's simply not the case. Okay, what we do know is that Bitcoin is growing in popularity as the years go on. But the idea that it will definitely end up being the global reserve currency, say replacing the US dollar, it's still pie in the sky. The US dollar shows actually no signs of stopping.
And Glenn, to be honest with you, Glenn, I'm not interested in that. I don't care whether it's going to end up being the reserve currency or I don't care. What I'm really, really interested in is this thing has grown massively, and there are lots of people who got in early and have made huge sums of money, actual money that they then sell. It goes onto the app or the crypto wallet that they've got. They then cash out of that, and that money is in their bank account if all has gone well. What's not to like?
Well, I can hardly talk. I've made lots of money out of investing in crypto and trading crypto in the short, both shorter term and longer term. But what I would say is the way I describe my trading in my book is trading the cycles, because unlike the stock market, Bitcoin is highly, highly volatile. The stock market is volatile enough. You get say a 50% drop every decade or so, and that, that terrifies people because of their pensions. But with Bitcoin, you're looking at an 85% drop every 4 years or so.
Wow.
And for other cryptocurrencies, some of the ones I've traded have dropped 95% after I've sold them, 99%. They disappear altogether quite a lot of the time. So they're the really risky end of things. But even Bitcoin itself tends to fall 85% every time it has, a slump. And apart from anything else, psychologically, that's extremely painful for probably some of your listeners know that pain. And it really warps your kind of investment judgment.
I get it. And you're talking about the ups and downs and the volatility. That's why it's a huge risk. That's why you don't bet more than you're willing to lose. That's et cetera, et cetera. But if it comes down 85%, it's gone up 85%. So I'm trying to understand where this now goes. We've got a lot of people very interested. There are a lot of people talking a lot of gibberish about this stuff. People who have just sort of gone all in with their eyes closed and hope for the best. I don't want to do that. I'm risk averse. I'm a normal guy. I just see this thing going crazy and want to know more about it. Talk to me about your actual user case of doing this.
So I bought it in 2017 as a bit of a punt, to be honest. And then it kind of slowly started building. And then in 2021, I had my second daughter. We needed a new car. So I managed to take out $5,000 of Bitcoin and use that for part of my deposit on the new car.
Wow. That's great. How much did you put in?
I think it was about 1,500 quid.
Right, so it was a bit. That's quite a chunky punt, if you don't mind saying.
I work in sales, and it was a commission day, and we'd all been reading about Bitcoin.
Oh, I see. Fine. Okay, so you'd had your commission day, you'd gone for a few celebratory shandies, and you decided to go for it.
Yeah, correct. And it was a mixture of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and a few of the altcoins. Right. But then I kind of basically moved it all into Ethereum and Bitcoin. So
this for you in your life has been a genuine thing that you have bought an actual physical property with.
Correct.
And you've still got some left over, or that's it?
Yeah, no, it's still accumulating. I'm not bought any Bitcoin for a long time, but just watching it go up, and you know what they say, going to the moon.
Well, you've got. I'm told that you've got a hodl.
Hodl, of course, Tom.
Natalie, thank you. Maria's in Greenford. Maria.
Hi, Tom. Hi.
Hi.
I got into Bitcoin about 4 years ago, and I think I put in about £200, and it really grew, and then obviously it came down and it hit rock bottom, so I just completely ignored it, and then all of a sudden it's grown up again. And I've used some of the money to buy other coins like Ethereum, Solano, Litecoin.
Okay, so this is You're back in the sort of crypto market.
Yes, after it hit rock bottom,
Yeah.
I was thinking, should I take the money out and just to get it? And then I just thought, no, I'll just leave it there because they kept saying it's a cycle, a cyclical thing, and I think it is. And also, it's something we are moving towards. And
In what way, briefly? Moving towards in what way do you think? More people, just more people doing it.
More people doing it. The fact that money itself, physical money, is not going to be around for much longer.
Oh, Maria. Well, I mean, central bank digital currencies and all that. Maria, thank you very much indeed for the call. Listen to this. Here's Amber on WhatsApp. Tom, we've got a friend who put in 30 grand in Bitcoin about 12 years ago and sold it for just over £550,000. Bought a house for £325,000, was going to put 150k towards buying his parents a house. Went to an accountant to seek advice, who reported him to HMRC, and he was footed a bill of over 150k. He now lives with his parents, age 55, eking out his funds until the end of his days. Jack's a new caller in Kefalonia in Greece. Jack.
Hi.
Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts, you mentioned that you wanted to hear from people that had bought Bitcoin or... Yeah, and I did. I made two purchases. One back in 2021, relatively small purchase. I bought relatively small, £250,000 worth of Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah, sure. I was thinking relatively small purchase. I'm thinking bag of Maltesers, Jack. But okay, yeah, 250
yeah, that's
grand.
true. And I'm sorry if I put it in those kind of terms.
All right,
but it was relatively small to my second purchase, where I bought £1 million worth of Bitcoin back in 2022.
You literally spent £1 million of actual money on Bitcoin?
Actual money, yeah. It was scary, and making the transaction itself and buying it and all that kind of thing was, I had my heart in my mouth when I did it. However, I decided, and actually just after I bought it, I thought I'd bought it at a good price, but within a week it reduced in value to 500,000. Which was pretty sickening. However, I believed that it would recover, and I just had a target in my mind. I'd watched a lot of YouTube videos, and what they'd said is basically have a target, wait till your target price is hit, and that's what I did. And in May this year, I mean, I wish I'd kept it till now in hindsight. However, I made 1.2 million profit from this purchase. Profit.
Hang on, so you didn't just make 200 grand profit. You made
no. I made
1.2
million, and I didn't hang on to my target because when I made that amount of money, I thought, you know what? Why hang on? I don't want to risk losing this. I've got an enormous amount that I've made. I'm going to just cash it out. So I did.
And you're now a multimillionaire, living it up in Greece.
Yeah. I wouldn't say living it up. I mean, it hasn't changed my life much, but I did buy a
why would
property.
it? To be honest, why would it, Jack? Why would a couple of million quid change your life? I wouldn't let it change mine at all.
Okay.
How much do you think you would have had you left it in?
Well, another million in just the last month and a half.
I honestly can't, unless you go into the bookies and you get really very lucky on an accumulator one Saturday afternoon. I can't think of anything else where you'd make that much money or that percentage increase that quickly. Forget how much you invest at the start.
I completely agree with you. But what all I would say is, and please believe me, I'm not giving anybody advice here because that's a terrible thing to do where crypto is concerned. But all I would say is it's extremely volatile. Yep. It's very much sentiment driven, and actually it won't be too long before there's something that spooks people. Everyone, mostly new investors or speculators, will sell. Okay, the price will crash by 60, 70, 80%, and that's when you buy it, when it's the hardest time to put your money in your pocket and actually dip in and think, I've got the balls to do this. But if you have, then you're going to see the really fantastic returns when everyone else is selling.
Well, that's when you hope. That's when you hope. I'll just, if you don't mind, I might just buy my bag of Maltesers.